can call the meeting to order now at 1:34 p.m.
Sweet.
Kathy, can you do the roll call, please?
Burns. Horton.
Here.
Reinhardt.
Here.
Kaminsky.
Present.
Greeno.
Here.
Van Hoff.
Here.
Meshes.
Here. If there's going to need to be a motion, though, let me in.
Yes, someone make a motion to...
Make a motion to allow her to attend remotely.
Second. Okay, we have a motion by Carl and second by Mike to allow Teresa to attend remotely.
All those in favor?
Told you
Aye.
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 once in a while.
Okay.
When I have a park like
Okay,
that.
so we're
Holy
all
cow.
set. The minutes, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from last week's meeting or last month's meeting? The month before that. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, second, Carl,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the minutes are,
Aye.
okay. Public comment is next. I don't see anyone here from the public.
No one signed up?
Okay. Okay, members' comments. Do
I
any
got
members have
nada.
comments?
Great cheesecake. That's all I got.
Cannolis are awesome.
I'll pass the word along to
Okay.
my baker downstairs.
Next week is Christmas. If they can't bake, can they? Because of the kitchen.
No, we're done.
Ryder,
Oh, that's done.
The
kitchen work? Yeah.
That's amazing.
We did it in 2 weeks.
Wow. You guys were right on schedule.
Correct.
Yes.
You
Okay.
did take pictures before and after, so we can
Okay, then I go back to next
Yes,
week's Christmas.
but I don't have them
Christmas
on me.
cookie.
But I did. Okay, cool.
So,
It's beautiful.
if there are no member reports, we'll go ahead to the administrator's report.
All right. Well, since you guys brought it up, let's start with projects. The kitchen flooring replacement project is complete. We were down for 2 weeks. It is basically a brand new kitchen down there at this point. So the floor was done. The walls, we had a company come in and deep clean everything. Get everything, like, before we put the floor in, we just took the kitchen down to its bare bones. All the equipment out. Walls were deep cleaned. We repainted anywhere that didn't have tile. Then we put the floor in, and at the same time, my team had all the equipment taken out back outside, and we broke it all down and deep cleaned it before going back into the kitchen. So it looks shiny, bright, and fancy down there right now, but we are back in service. So stayed right on schedule, like you had said. It was a full, 2-week project. Very little disruption to the resident service. I will say the staff side, they were working out of this space right here and that very tiny kitchen right there. But they made it work. They were fantastic. And we're back to normal service at this point. Actually, we were back to normal service last week. So that project is done. We still have to do the floor in the 2 satellite kitchens. It's not in as bad a shape as the downstairs kitchen was. So we're either targeting that for the next fiscal year or the fiscal year after that. Tom Burrows and I are in the process of working through updating our capital improvement and asset preservation plan, seeing where things can be moved and updating the cost. So that actually will come to you guys next month. Not so much for approval, but more or less just to keep you in the loop as to what's on the docket and what's being budgeted out into the future.
quick question.
Yeah, fire away.
When you took all the equipment to deep clean it and inspect it and all, no problems found, or if we did, we identified when we can get them repaired, or?
We have one piece of equipment that's down, and that is the vegetable steamer. It went down before we started the project. We've been kind of looking at pricing and chasing it for a little bit now. It's well underway. The demo of the interior is pretty far along. A lot of the walls that need to be removed are already gone. All the flooring's been taken up that's being removed. So we're moving that project along pretty well. The geo piers that needed to be sunk in, that was done 2 weeks ago now. And so we've begun the excavation process out behind the building. So there's been trucks in and out of here all day as they keep digging down. But that project for the moment, still running very close to schedule. I'm not going to tell you it's on schedule because it's not exactly as we had it drawn out. But pretty close. And then from a construction standpoint, I'll take pretty close. The FF&E, or furnitures, fixtures, and equipment bid, is gonna hit the streets probably right after the new fiscal year. I'd like to get through the current fiscal year stuff and get that all cleaned up, and then we'll get that bid out on the street. I've attended 2 national healthcare shows in the last 2 months and spoke with various vendors of who would be bidding on furniture and letting them know what the project is, to be watching for the bid documents and things like that. So we have a handful of interested companies, and so hopefully we can find what we need at a very competitive and reasonable price. And I will bring a resolution to you guys, or at least an update when we have a little bit more clarity as to who our vendor is going to be. And more than likely, I think I'm going to break it up, meaning that if I can get wardrobe closets at a great price from one company, but the bedside tables at a better price from somewhere else, I'm going to break it all up. So I'm not looking to go with a one vendor for the entire project. I'm going to shop it around. So that's not inconsistent with what we do. I mean, that's kind of pretty much what we're always doing. And then that kind of rounds out that project status at the current moment. We are still meeting weekly with the architect, the contractor, facilities management, and myself, just to make sure that everything is staying on track. Any questions on the projects that we have going on at the moment?
No hidden gremlins found yet?
Not yet. I don't say that out loud. But no, we had our meeting today. We were in the space going through it and looking at it, and I've got a whole bunch of pictures on my phone that before the next day or two, we wrap the week up, I will get those onto our social so people can kind of see kind of the progress along the way. So right now it just looks like a shell. And if you don't have vision, you're not going to be able to see any of it. Did you want to talk about that? I'll put it on their radar.
I just had a question about, you mentioned 2 satellite kitchens. Where are they located?
One on each floor.
Okay.
And they're like kind of right off the elevator. Mm-hmm. And so we do all of the main food prep and work in the kitchen downstairs. Okay. And then they get put into pans and different things like that, and they're brought up. And then in the satellite kitchen is where we serve out of, so that we're not trying to, I don't want to do tray service out of the kitchen, right? Mm-hmm. So the 2 satellite kitchens have steam tables in them, and we can either do, if we wanted to do buffet style, we can move those into the kitchen, or if we just want to serve normal restaurant style, depending on what we're doing for the day, we just take it right out of that satellite kitchen. Okay. Smaller spaces, so that project I can't imagine would be a 2-week project. The turnaround is probably just a week.
Okay, cool.
All right. Last thing with the projects, and Scott just asked if I wanted to mention this, and we talked a little bit, for some of you guys that came in earlier might have heard this, but we did have one snafu. While they were drilling the geo piers, they did hit a fiber optic cable between us and DOT.
Hot dog.
Yeah, you could say that. Was it Jeff's office? You see the one?
Scott Hennings.
Scott Hennings' office.
Hennings.
Yeah, he doesn't think it's funny.
Oh, no.
And he may have needed a new pair of shorts when it all was said and done. But basically, what happened is they got it on one of the borers, and it stretched it tight. It snapped, and it was like a rubber band. It went between our building and their building, and they found out loudly and the hard way. So it happened on a Friday afternoon. Well, of course, but thankfully, I mean, it sucked that IT had to work through the weekend, but DOT was not without service very long, just Friday afternoon, and they got it running by Sunday. We're still debating, and this was a hot topic this morning, as to who is responsible and at what level.
That's what I was going to ask you. Who can we think?
Well, there's a matter of opinion.
Okay.
We have one.
Okay.
Construction company has another. There's a lot of light between the two spots. Mm-hmm. I think it's fair to say that if we knew it was there, we would have had to move it anyway. Mm-hmm. So Tom Burrows and I have talked a little bit about, there is probably a little bit of responsibility that we can take, but the bulk of it yes, very small. But just for example, if it would have cost us $3,000 to have it moved, mm-hmm. then we feel that would be our responsibility, and the remaining should be the contractor. Okay. Tom Burrows has done a fantastic job going through every piece of contracting literature between all of the projects and highlighting mm-hmm. where it shows that they should have had a survey done, they should have done this, they should have done that. So I feel pretty confident, and I can tell you our architect is like, no, it is them, it is them, it is them. So we'll figure it out. We agreed today that we were not going to do anything or discuss it any further until we actually saw a bill.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say, what is the estimated
We don't know
cost?
yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't really matter, I mean, if they come in and they say it's only such a, thing,
Yeah.
it's like, okay.
Oh, weekend work, emergency, new
Yeah.
wire and fiber being pulled and new piping, oh, it's gonna be a big number.
Yeah,
So you were gonna say something, Pete?
Yeah, it's gonna be around 70,000. It's just how we divide it up.
I wasn't kidding when I said big.
And actually, that's probably cheap. That's on the light side.
Part of
Yeah,
it,
it's just a unique,
Yeah.
it's, normally it's easy, you call Julie and it gets taken care of, but this was not a Julie situation, and I learned this, because this is our fiber that we own on our property. So you don't call Julie for that situation, but your contract still says that they gotta find it and point it out, so.
so who
Little
you
bit
gonna
different.
call? Who you gonna call if you don't call Julie?
like an ASIC or another group that can
So it's
come in
another
and
agency?
locate.
Okay,
Yeah. So, and in the contract, Pete's right, it clearly calls out for the fact that they would call in that company to locate our stuff. And as Tom Burrows said, we own all of this. There's stuff going all over the place. That's why it was in the contract to begin with, so.
okay. And Tom Burrows agrees that it should be done?
With the caveat that, being that it's there and that it would have gone through the area we would have had some liability to move it.
Just a little bit,
Yeah,
but the majority is on them?
that's how we feel.
Yeah, okay.
I'm assuming that, it may be bad assuming, any more ground digging, we have gone through, somebody's going through records to make
They,
sure that we've dotted
The
Ts.
next morning called out a locate, so I think we're pretty confident now that we know what's underneath.
That explains a lot why Scott was a little grouchy Monday.
I'm sure that, on a Friday afternoon, the office is pretty empty. Everybody is either out in the field or not around. It's super quiet. You're in the zone, and the next thing you know, boom, and the ceiling tiles fall in. Yeah, that would ruin your day. And your underwear.
Carl, those are the gremlins you were talking about,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, in construction, they're there.
Yep. So any other questions about the two projects that are ongoing? No, not ongoing. The therapy one, or the kitchen one's done, but the memory care one's ongoing.
I'm assuming fiber optic issues not delaying any further construction.
No, we're back in business. It happened on a Friday, so I mean, it didn't delay anybody much other than the IT team and the group that came in to retrench and stuff, so. All right, let's jump back into the report here real quick. Talk a little bit about personnel changes here at Valley High. Our director of nursing is no longer with us. We separated ways about maybe 3 weeks ago at this point. We have an ad out right now for a DON. However, we also have a very highly qualified individual in our building that's the assistant director of nursing who has expressed an interest in taking the role. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of interviewing this week with the thought that unless someone comes in here and blows the doors off, we're going to promote Brittany on Friday of this week to the DON position. At that point, and I've had Tara and I, my assistant administrator Tara and I, have had some conversations with Brittany already, and she's made the comment to us that she thinks that we could pause on, if we were to move her into the DON role, pause on bringing in an assistant director of nursing for a little while. Now, because we are not operating at 100% occupancy or over 100 beds, which is the actual threshold is 100 beds, we are not required by any rule to have an ADON. The minute you cross a census level of 100, you have to have an ADON that's an RN. So one of the things that we had talked a little bit about internally is holding off, and then when we get through the new year and into the the late winter, early spring, when we get ready to talk about bringing on a unit director for the memory care, looking at maybe it being one and the same. And so saving an FTE and generating a few efficiencies that for a 20-something bed unit, a unit director at 40 hours a week, there's probably going to be a little bit of downtime, or at least not efficient, productive time. But if we combine the two roles, which we would be allowed to do, we might be able to, again, save a little bit of money, still maintain the level of services that we're expected to, and kind of kill two birds with one stone. So you know, we were talking percentages of where we're leaning right now. I'm like 80-20% that's the way we're gonna end up at this point. So, just kind of figure that next month I'll have a DON announcement for you guys, and then, what the plan is gonna be for the ADON position. But I kind of like the idea of holding off for a little bit, kind of seeing as, a new DON, because, our former director of nursing had been here in various capacities from a CNA all the way up for 30 years. So the way that it was being done has been her way, and it's always been that way. So this is an opportunity for whoever comes in new to take a fresh look at how the responsibilities are divvied up, what's going on the units, and seeing where we might be able to find some efficiency. So that's kind of our plan for the moment. And then we have a new position that, if you recall, you go back, there was a resolution you guys passed, and then the county board ultimately passed, regarding the dining room manager, and it was, we kind of changed the position, from dietary quality assurance to dining room manager. The new dining room manager started yesterday. So she's still getting her feet wet, but the goal here is that she will manage the dining rooms and help address any of the small little resident, concerns or things that come up during the mealtime, rather than waiting until the next resident council for them to say, well, I didn't like this, or that was cold. We can address it in real time. And the other thing is coordinating the services, which is something that, if anybody that's sitting in any quality assurance meeting with me over the last 14 years knows, I keep at, whenever dietary stuff comes up, it's like, what's the question? Who's in charge of the dining rooms? Because if you don't have somebody assigned to that, you're not gonna ensure that everything gets handled. So this position will address that. So we're really excited to have her. I'll let you guys know next month how she's doing.
What is her name?
I'm gonna get it wrong, but I think it's Jordana.
Georgiana?
Jordana,
Jordana.
yeah.
That's correct. We met her yesterday at orientation.
Okay.
Young, full of energy, has experience running, real.
And she's new to the Valley High.
Very, very new to Valley High. Yeah, she met with Pete for the first time. Yesterday was her first day.
Okay.
So today she's kind of going around with Mike, my dietary director, and starting to learn the ropes and get set up with, all the computer stuff and whatnot. Her onboarding will take a couple months before she's actually fully onboarded. Just the nuances of a clinical dining room versus a restaurant dining room. But she'll be fine. I have all the confidence in her after meeting her this morning. So, any questions on anything staff related? All right, good. That covers that one. The only other thing I had to highlight for you guys is just from a budget standpoint, I need to make 2 changes to our supplemental requests, and the net of all of that is a huge savings. So let me kind of explain to you what's kind of transpired since we approved the budget. If you recall, we put in a supplemental request for $200,000 to put a zero gravity track into the therapy space. We had built there's a steel beam that runs across the center of the room. We had built the room to handle the zero gravity track, knowing that that's a service line we want to get into, which is more like stroke and gait training and whatnot. I was in Colorado a couple weeks ago for the American Healthcare Association conference, and I was talking with one of the vendors who had a zero gravity lift. So it's a different piece of equipment altogether, not a ceiling lift, but a standing unit. I played around with it a little bit on the trade show floor. The guy was willing to drive it out from Ohio, so we have it actually right now in our therapy space to test drive. It is $6,000.
Wow.
It's a new product. It completely does everything we want it to do, and you are no longer bound by one straight line path that the beam holds. You can go all around the room, you can spin around in it, you can do all of it. So I would like to eliminate the $200,000 request and change it to a $6,000 lift request.
Well, let's think.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be an issue, so I've already just kind of asked for it to be done.
Yeah.
And
Now
then-
you got the money for your steamer.
And now I got the money for the steamer, which I added in, and we're still net.
So I'm really interested in seeing any photos that you have of this lift.
I don't have any on me, but I can send some out.
Yeah, if you,
Yeah.
I'm just really curious.
I can picture it probably looks like an engine noise.
Yeah, it's in the other room. So if you wanted to see it like in real time,
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's using it at the moment, but I can show you when we're done.
okay.
Yeah, it's basically your standard lift, but the arm on it is a lot longer in the wider base, and then the way that it's got arms that can come down, it's set up so that you can walk inside the frame, which is a little bit different than what you're you're probably used to seeing out on the floors. So we took my therapy staff and hung them, put them in the lift and hung them and had them like drop down, like take your feet and completely kick them out and come down, and like we basically with the rep here tried to tip it over, and I think it's a hell of a savings, and it'll get everything we want it to do. And the other thing is it'll allow us to, if we wanted to try do some of that outside or with a car, out front, we now have the flexibility to do some of that work outside of the therapy space. So it's just coincidentally, that's why you go to these shows, you see new products. Robots coming soon, I'm telling you right now.
That's true.
Carl and I were talking about some of the robotics that are starting to hit the market space for healthcare right now, and some of it's really neat, and some of it's really kind of, for lack of a better term, trippy. It just weirds you out that you can have a conversation with a robot and it's actually back and forth. Just weird. But that's all I had in my report that I wanted to highlight. Is there anything that you guys want me to talk about, cover?
Teresa? Did you want to mention anything about the meeting that you had regarding the employee?
So that has to do with the resolution number 7.2.
Okay.
Yeah, 6.2, sorry, 6.2. So, if someone wants to pull 6.2, I think that probably Peter and I guess I should draw last names, Mr. Austin, Mr. Hartman, Mr. Anarella, me, and Mr. Guru, about why I think that 6.2 would be something we want to support.
Yeah, I
Do you agree with that?
definitely would like to have some discussion on it, so.
When we get there, I would actually like to have some discussion.
Okay, cool,
So
then we're good.
we'll pull it and then we can go through it. I think it's an important piece to talk through.
Okay, wonderful.
Anything else on the administrator's report? Because if not, I'll yield the floor back to the vice chair.
Okay, then we're at the routine consent agenda. So we're gonna pull, do I have a motion to pull 6.2?
You want to do them both separately?
Well,
Sure, I'll pull 6.2.
Thank
We can
you.
talk about it separately, yeah.
Okay.
This one is,
Okay, we have a motion by Teresa and a second by Terry to pull 6.2, and then 6.1. We're gonna take a vote on, leaving that on the consent agenda.
Just one thing to note on 6.1, this was what we built into the revenue budget that was approved. So all of this is just the housekeeping piece of getting it formalized.
Okay, wonderful. So I don't think there needs to be any more discussion unless you have something else to
I
say
got
about
nothing
that.
else to add
Tom?
on that.
Okay,
6.1
educate
or
us
2?
on 6.2.
We still need to vote on 6.1.
I'll make
Oh.
a motion for 6.2.
Or we still need to vote on 6.1?
We need to vote on 6.1. Can we hear a motion to approve the consent agenda with 6.1? Mike and Carl second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Voice, isn't it money? No, it's not money, we don't need a voice, we do-
A roll call vote, you mean?
yeah, we don't need a roll call vote.
Is there money? Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So
We're not spending it, but we're taking it in.
So
just to
we
cover the bases.
will need a roll call vote on that.
Reiner,
Yes.
Shorten,
Yes.
Kaminsky,
Yes.
Greeno,
Yes.
Van Hoff,
Yes?
Meshes.
Yes.
Okay, and now we can discuss, so that
Motion and
motion
second
passed?
to discuss
Okay.
6.2.
Mhm.
Do we have
You
a
guys
motion?
want to educate us? Because,
I'll
need a
make a
motion?
motion to discuss 6.2.
yeah. We
I'll
got a
second.
second from Mike.
Thank you.
All right, now
Now you can talk.
I got yelled at one
Bear with me.
operating committee meeting a long time ago because I started talking before the vote. Now I sit on my hands as an Italian until you guys have done your thing. That's how you gotta do it.
Tom, can I start this?
100%, go ahead.
Just by way of introduction, and I know you'll do most of the talking, but I want to express my appreciation to Teresa for coming up to my office last Thursday to kind of talk through this with Scott and Tom and I and Cheryl. And, Just as a reminder to the board, it was about 25 months ago exactly that we kind of did a significant overhaul on what our compensation and retention program was for Valley Hot. It was October of 21 that we did that, and that was a little bit ahead of where we did for the balance of our non-union employees. That started in January of 22 and then was implemented in July of 22. We're really following almost that same time frame again. Some of you on administrative services know, or maybe know otherwise, that we are already compiling all of our non-union wage information for Cheryl, and beginning in January, we're going to kind of roll up our sleeves and again look at our wages to make sure we're competitive in the marketplace for attraction and retention of all of our non-union staff members. And we're going to be setting in motion a program that will likely go into effect then July 1 of 24. So we're really kind of following that same plan. We're maybe a month or two behind on Valley High, but if the board chooses to move forward on the program that Tom has developed, this would go into effect immediately to 12/1, and we're ready to go, and we're really following that same program that we did 2 years ago. I got to tell you, as Tom will share, this is a different world right now in terms of long-term care and what we can accomplish with the state funding and through Medicaid. It's really exciting to think that we can do this for our employees and still come out ahead. But that's just my teaser, and Tom, you can take it away from there.
Actually, I'll just say, Teresa, do you want to add anything before I start walking them through it?
So, I mean, I feel like I think sometimes it's lost on us how much money we've been spending on agency cost, because we don't think like that. I know as a board member, we don't go through what's being spent. We approve policy and we think about policy, but we don't think about what individual costs necessarily are day to day. And so the agency cost has been astounding. And there is also a quality that is not as good when you're dealing with people who don't have a commitment to the building. So all of my time on the board, I've been very interested in making sure that we have happy staff that will stay and that we have longevity with our staff. So that's why I am very enthusiastic about this measure.
All right, well, thank you. Let me walk you guys through it, and I'm not going to go verbatim, but let's just talk about what's happened and what we're trying to do. So, in years past, when we would look at our wages, what we would do is we would call all the facilities in our geographical circle and ask them what their pay rates are for starting new employees, and they would share that information with us. It's not uncommon to have a wage survey or a room rate survey done in long-term care, and we all share that information. But we would compete directly with them. And so when you're looking at what would you do in the market, you would look at your competitors and you try to just go a little bit above where they're at, and then in a year you'd come back and you'd do it again. Well, the world coming out of COVID with the loss of available healthcare workers has really changed the way that game is being played. And I'm no longer competing for staff against the other skilled facilities in our area. That ceased to exist. I'm now competing with the staffing agencies who are coming in and stealing your staff, offering them a higher wage with no benefits, but they get the higher wage, and here's the key, they choose when they work, how they work, and no weekends. And so that's what you're competing against, not the local facility up the street. And so when I walked into this plan, I changed the approach to I want to have our rates be at the rate that's going to compete with the people stealing them from us, not my competitor, because they're not taking our staff anymore. And so you'll see that those numbers are reflected in here. So as I was working through it, and I sent this off to Cheryl with my recommended numbers, she did an independent review of what she thought the area market rates were and came in and was pretty much in line with where I was at. So there's some agreement at those increased amounts. So what we're looking at doing here is to make a change on 12/1. So instead of giving the 4%, which the county has planned to do for all of the non-union staff, I would like to take a couple of the positions in nursing and go bigger than that. What I'm asking is a CNA increase of 14%, an LPN increase of 12%, and an RN increase of 22%. That puts us right at the same pay level as the agencies and actually the hospitals too, which is another area that we want to be able to try to be attractive with. So we've done a little bit of preliminary back work, talked to a few of our agency nurses that basically are our employees, but they're working for the agency, and asked them, if you were to come on board for us, what would it take? And I can assure you that we baked that into this cake so that we can start stealing some of our people, or new people back. So the way this is laid out, it talks about doing the wage increase for the base rate. Then we're going to have to do that same equivalent increase for the staff that are currently on shift, so that way we don't end up having that flip and compression and all of the other issues. And then we're looking at one minor tweak in the differentials. And so in healthcare, the less attractive shifts, you put a differential on them, and that attracts someone to work. Like a night shift might have a $3 differential, a PM shift might have a $1 differential, and then there'd be no differentials on days. Well, coming out of COVID, we put differentials on days and PMs and nights so that we could get kind of a little bit higher in the pay scale and whatnot of the pay grades. We're going to eliminate the day shift one. And the reason that we're doing that is over the last 2 years, we have shifted away from 8-hour shifts for nursing, and now we have a lot of 12s, and we have a lot of 10s, and a couple 8s. So it's like this mix mash of shift lengths. Well, when you say day shift, what does that mean? Does it mean the shift that starts at 7 a.m. and goes until 7 p.m.? Or does that mean the shift that starts at 7 a.m. and only goes till 2:30 or 2:45? Because then another shift starts after that, and so it got real confusing. So we're looking to add that into the people that work that day shift base so that they're not losing anything. It doesn't get perceived as a cut, but we're just getting rid of it. It's a nightmare trying to every payroll add in all these differentials and whatnot. It'll save a little bit of time on the payroll side as well. The registry rates, we're going to tweak upward a little bit, but we're going to try to make them, and this was under Cheryl's recommendation, and it's spot on. I think her approach is right. We're not going to boost them the same level we're boosting all the other rates. And we're going to see if we can't make it more attractive for people to come back on to full-time, part-time, rather than being on the registry, and that's going to take a higher rate. So we built that into here. And then the last piece of non-routine stuff, and actually there's two, so I lied. The second to last piece is the CNA tenure structure. And we're looking to bring this in for all three CNAs, LPNs, and RNs. And so this is a state program they just implemented. And the state wants you to come in and tier based on years that someone has held their certificate or their license, the start rate. So there's a little bit of an add-on there. And in exchange for that, they will enhance your Medicaid rate. So your Medicaid rate will go up. It's approximately $8 per patient day if you get into this program. And you have to notify the state, you have to provide them with the breakdown, you have to post this so that the public can see how you break it. There's a lot to it. But if your Medicaid population is around 70%, your overall case mix, the reimbursement rate coming in offsets the cost of building in this tenure structure. We're there. So to build this in at this point is almost budget neutral. The difference is most of the McHenry County facilities have not gotten into the tenure, whereas Cook County's all in. Downstate tends to be a lot more heavily in. And really what it boils down to is, what are the people in your area doing, right? If you have a whole bunch of facilities in your area that are adding that on, and you're not, your rate's lower. So that'll also help us edge ourselves up a little higher in our market space. And again, it's budget neutral. So the last piece that's new is creating these new tiers within our structure. So like you'd have a floor staff level 1 and then a floor staff level 2. What we're doing is we're preparing ourselves for when we open the memory care unit. Anyone who's gone through that specialized training for the memory care unit will have a 2 after their name, and they'll get paid a little bit more for having that training. If you do not go through the training, you cannot even step on the new unit. That's the state law for a certified unit. So And then it's not just nursing. If I have a housekeeper assigned to that unit, they have to do the 12 hours and have the specialized training and then the annual education. So that's where that structure gets built in. All of the bonuses were already in play. So that is not a change. That's something that's already in place. So now the biggest part is, how are we going to pay for this? Well, when the new Medicaid reimbursement system went into effect, there is a carve-out that is only available to county nursing homes. And it has never been a better time to be a county nursing home because it has changed to a cost-based reimbursement system for county homes. So what that means is if we spend the money on allowable expenses, and payroll is an allowable expense, the following year when the cost report is completed and we move into that cost report year, you will get your Medicaid rate adjusted to offset what you spent. This went into effect in 2022. So we have spent a ton of money over the last year in agency expenses. When we do the cost report at the end of the year, so like February-ish when we start the cost report, all of the money we spent this year will be captured and it'll be and then brought back into our Medicaid rate. So that will inflate our Medicaid rate for a year, which will help pay for these new costs. And then those new costs then will just be sustained going out into the future. So when you look at this and you say, all right, Tom, what's the actual cost of this? It's zero, because it's cost-based reimbursement. So we're going to put in the initial investment, get it all structured out, and then that money will continue to flow back in. Where we will see a substantial savings by doing this is we'll get off of the agency, the utilization of that. I put into the report so you guys can see, an agency person is 175% of the cost of what an RN on the floor was making right now. So if you give an RN 22% an increase, and then you build in a couple of these tenure things, so you figure it equates out to about 25%, you're still 125% savings of what it would cost to have an RN from an agency sitting out on the floor. And so you kind of get control back, and you will know or agree with me when I say this.
I know what we pay agency.
Well, not even that.
staff.
If you don't control your schedules, you don't control your buildings.
That's right.
Because agency staff, they're not that great, and they don't care. And there's no investment to ensure that they document so that you get the maximum reimbursement coming back, because there's no loss in that. So it's just getting control of your schedules. You have control over quality as well. There's a reimbursement aspect there. If we're not getting credit for stuff we're doing because an agency person doesn't chart it, we don't get paid for it. So there's another little bit of savings. The key to the plan and the whole purpose of this is to get ourselves to be competitive with the hospitals and the agencies and bring all of our staff that we can back in-house and lock it down ahead of whatever the federal mandate for staffing ends up being, so that we have them here and we have that structure already established before everybody in town starts trying to staff up, so to speak, in order to meet the mandate. So we're just trying to get ahead of what's going to come down the road in the next 2 to 3 years. We're not going to staff to that level, but what we are going to do is start locking down our own staff and putting them in a position where they're going to want to stay in the future. Does that make sense? Did I miss anything, Pete, Teresa, Scott?
Well, I have a question.
Fire away.
So, I know you mentioned that Cheryl did wage surveys, so she knows what the prevailing wage is for CNAs, LPNs, and RNs. So you did that comparison and
Yep.
all of that, and you based those increases on that, so we could be competitive.
Actually, she did hers independent of mine.
Right,
They
that's right.
corroborated his.
Yeah.
Cheryl just did the old trust but verify. Tom had kind of reported what his surveys had done, and Cheryl looked at 5 separate external sources that reported on healthcare wages, and she found that we were right on in almost every spot.
Okay, so my question is then, you were talking about the reimbursement that we would get.
Mm-hmm.
What happens, and that's a finite period. What happens after that?
Right now, it is baked into the Medicaid reimbursement system, so it will.
Oh, okay, so it is
Yep.
going to be
So
stable.
county nursing homes get what is called the CEA rate,
Okay.
which is an add-on that the private sector
Nobody
doesn't
else
get.
yeah.
That's correct.
Okay,
In the past, the CEA rate was to just kind of offset the fact that county nursing homes carry a higher expense due to the pension and the holiday structures that county nursing homes have. I mean, you work in a private sector building, you get 5 holidays.
yeah.
You work here, you get 15. So to offset all of those costs, there was always what used to be called the IGT rate, which is the Intergovernmental Transfer Rate. When the new system went into effect in July of 2022, they changed it over. It's CEA, and don't ask me what it stands for. It's the county something or other. But it was written in that all of the managed care companies that deal with Medicaid have to pay counties at their full cost or their full CEA rate. So our rate right now for Medicaid is over $500 per patient day. Yeah, because go back 3 years ago, we were hoping to crack 200. So if you look at it from your private pay rate, it's like 325, somewhere in that range. Your Medicare rate all in, we have it calculated, it's slightly over 460, once we break out some of our costs. And now you have the Medicaid rate. It's just unbelievable an opportunity for a county nursing home. Now, the question that got asked, Teresa asked it, was when does this end or sunset? Right now, we don't have a sunset date.
Yeah, and that's the same question I was
Do I think that the state and everybody's going to figure this out somewhere down the road and probably tweak it down a little bit? 100%, because that's the way the game is played, you know that. But for now, we're going to ride this thing as long as we possibly can as far as taking advantage of that, which is not a conversation I want to get too far into today, but I think we need to take a look at case mix a little bit right now.
This would be a good time to do that, because we're at about 70% from Medicaid now, right?
Yeah.
So this would be a good time to, I hate to say this, but, to
Tweak it up.
yeah.
Tweak it up. So all the open beds right now that on the second floor, the long-term beds that have popped up, we've reached out to Medicaid, people that were interested in coming here from another building that are on Medicaid, because it's almost twice the rate. It makes more sense. So this committee and the board has talked about case mix and wanting to be a little bit heavier into the Medicaid business, but we couldn't do that because of the rates. Well, we're in a different spot now.
Yeah.
And so we have to have a case mix conversation when we get closer to opening the memory care bin.
And look at Scott, he's starting to smile because he loves his case mix.
Well, because we've been playing around, yeah, there's been some preliminary messing around
It's
with.
interesting to watch how that changes when you look at your Medicare private pay and your Medicaid.
Yeah, so we'll have this conversation again a little bit farther down the road, because I'm doing some modeling as well, and Scott is gonna update the full model. But I think there's an opportunity here for us to kind of do what the county board was looking for before, which is to get a little bit more Medicaid into the building, and it won't hurt us in any way.
The only other question I have, so what is going to happen with other healthcare workers like dietary aides and housekeepers? And
They're all gonna get the 4% that's, the county is elected for on 12/1. And then Cheryl is doing a wage survey thing for mid-year next year. I've got some positions that will be evaluated through that, and then if there's a mid-year adjustment because the market's changed, then we'll make it at that point.
Okay, so do we compare with the market now?
I think,
Because when I look years back, and this was like me looking from Lake County and looking at places out here and also in Lake County, I remember the housekeepers and the dietary aides, they were getting paid so little as compared to what we were paying them at Riverside. And I don't know how that is, but one of the places that was in my comparable was the place in Woodstock, Sheltered Village. That was one of the ones I used because that compared to our population ICFDD. And
we're in the market. We always check the key positions when we hit the market space: dietary, housekeeping, laundry, activity aides. We're in the market for all of them. We're a little low, more so on the dietary side, but I think that's a reaction to the fact that all restaurants have raised. I mean, even McDonald's, their starting wages are really inflated at this point. So that's something that I think we're going to look at a little bit closer when we get to that mid-year review.
okay.
I think there's probably a little room to make an adjustment on our starting rates, but we're not having any difficulty right now in filling open positions for those departments in the current moment, so.
Okay. You expect any fallout when the raises go in place for the CNAs with
No.
the?
Everybody that works in healthcare understands the game right now.
Okay.
And you can go around, and you can ask any department, any person, do you want agency in this building? And they will tell you without hesitation, no, we don't want it.
Oh, they're terrible. They're
Exactly.
ter- we
Not,
gotta
not
do-
all.
Well,
I've got 3 of
not
them that
all
I
of
would
them.
hire in a heartbeat, which I'm gonna do as soon as we do this,
Not all of them.
because
but-
they are quality, but that's,
But even the ones that are good, it's like you said, they're not
They're not invested.
committed to the place. A lot of times they don't have a rapport with the clients, and I know we got a tag for one, so I always remember that.
yeah, there's no, they don't have any recourse unless they do something egregious. They're gonna go somewhere else tomorrow, so,
Right.
yeah.
Question on, you're enjoying that you got this golden goose egg, if you wanna call it that.
Yeah,
And we all know that if government giveth, government taketh. Are we also building and thinking in the back of our mind that when this golden egg is gone, we've got a contingency plan that we're not gonna have the whole cards come crumbling down?
getting off of agency. That expense is brutal, and so,
I mean, let's not enjoy this,
Oh, I
you
hear
know, give it to Donna and let her invest it, if anything, because it will get cut off again. And
Yeah.
that way we're not, you know, gonna go through the sky is falling scenario.
well, the good news is there's only 17 county nursing homes. So it's not like it's gonna be a massive budget number that hits the state coffers. In fact, of the overall total Medicaid budget, it's such a small amount that it might never even be caught.
Right.
Okay, and I don't wanna jinx us, but for now,
You
yeah,
know, kind of
take
enjoy
advantage
it,
of it.
but
there
let's
is
not
no
get,
interest at the state level of relooking at Medicaid. That battle was a 2-3 year long battle. It went until 11:59 at the last minute of the last day of the last second before it was finally, okay, we can get behind it and vote on it. I don't think anybody's looking at it for at least a couple of years. That was just experience says it. It'll be,
And even if they do, you're saving money when you get the agency nurses out of here.
yep,
The rate that you have to pay an agency nurse, you can go with these rates and it's not gonna make any difference. You'll still save money.
that's exactly the way I'm looking at it. If we could lock it down and eliminate agency, this will pay for itself, even if they pull some of that back.
okay.
The CEA rate, formerly the IGT rate, has always been there. So I don't anticipate they'll ever come in and just say, you know what, it's gone. They may pull it back a little bit, but, you know, part of the Medicaid rate and the reason why it's so high is we get an enhancement for our quality scores. We get an enhancement for being a county home. I mean, there's all these other factors that go into it as well. So,
Still being N6 too, though, I mean, and I know that all the nurses, they all know, but working for Valley High, McHenry County, they have health insurance and a retirement program after, what is it, 10 years?
yeah,
They're
they're
vetted?
tier 2.
I'm just astonished, because I would think that a government job is just it's just such a stable environment. Whereas even nursing, I mean, I have a sister-in-law that's been a nurse at Good Shepherd, and they every so often they get on a hunch and they take their full time out, or you would think that you would have no problem, Tom. It just astounds me. But we are in the weeds, way in the weeds. I mean, we should go back. Are we gonna support 6-2?
Well, I can speak to that a little bit. You don't want to paint with a broad brush, but let's just talk about CNAs for a second. Stereotypical CNA, single mom, some type of state benefit, so they're not collecting, the county benefit for insurance, and their sole focus in life is getting food on the table for their kids tonight. Not retirement, not any of these other, benefits the county offers. And so,
But still, Tom, these are people that are a little higher on the intelligent level, and they know they're gonna get old and need a retirement too.
You're not thinking about it
They don't
at
care.
20 and 30
Really?
years
yes,
old.
they
They're
do not care.
We can't sell them, I would say, look at, Terry asked that question at one of our administrative meetings, the full compensation. Look at that, look at, when you put all of this together, you've got health insurance, you've got holidays,
Great
you've got
health
sick
insurance.
days, you've got.
Yes.
And I'm
Yeah.
talking about as, a private,
Yeah.
not the county. The county's even better because,
Right?
yeah,
I
you're
mean,
right, you've got
everything's
great
sold.
health insurance and put that together with the salary at 20 years old, they're not thinking about that. plus college reimbursement,
We offer that.
you know? I mean, it's like, wow.
Oh my goodness, maybe we should remind them of this.
Well, Cheryl, I asked
What am I
her,
missing?
and she said, Cheryl said she does. It's there. They're, you know, for some reason, they're, like I said, I don't think they're tuned in. They're young. They're not thinking about
Yeah.
life insurance. They're not thinking about
So-
anything.
Well, and one thing we hear every once in a while is that, well, the pension's not gonna be there when I'm ready to retire anyway, look at the state of Illinois. And, you know, it's hard to get people to understand, there's multiple pension systems in
Right.
Illinois. No pension system's the same. We are not the teachers, we're not the state workers. But there's a subset of people out there that just believe that, you know, they're gonna pay into something that will not be there for them.
Well, when the system breaks, everybody's gonna feel it.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah,
Anyway, motion to approve this, or?
Yeah, yeah,
I'll
do it.
second it.
okay. You made the motion, okay, John made the motion and Carl second
We
to
already
approve
have
16.
Reiner and Gordon.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Okay, do we need to vote on it now?
Yeah, it's money, ain't it?
Okay, yes, it's money. Okay, so, can we get a vote on 6-2, to approve
Reno?
6-2?
Yes.
Kaminsky.
Yes.
Reiner.
Yes.
Jordan.
Yes.
Van Hoff.
Yes?
Leshes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, as soon as we're done with the vote.
Okay, any old business? That's where we are, right?
Yep,
Okay. Discussion items?
we have one.
Okay.
It's yours.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna go back to Tom's administrator report, and the last page before the article, I just wanted to touch on that. Carl, you had just made a statement not too long ago about getting the Valley High dollars into our treasurer's hands so they can invest. If you recall, earlier this year, we had a conversation and got direction from this committee to really take that strategy of investing as much of the money that we can that's in the fund balance, keeping appropriate reserve of cash. This, I think this chart really tells the story of what we've done based on that direction. And you can see that it's the Valley High fund strength trending. I really want to draw your attention to right about May, June of +23, where you can see we went from about $10 million in the operating account of Associated Bank. That was cash. And you can see how that's dropped down to the end. At the end of October, we had just shy of $9 million. And that really is reflective of your direction in that strategy to take another $1 million and put it into investments. And you can see how on the right side of this table, the investment portfolio, Bank of Oklahoma, that's really the investment portfolio. You can see how that's increased. So we'll show you how that's working, but as I just talked to Donnie yesterday, and just for the year so far, the investments have generated just shy of $570,000 in cash, or in new money, in interest earned off of those investments. Now, that number seems high, it sounds great, but that is carrying the legacy investments that we've had tied up under 2% and 3% interest rates when the market wasn't as good. So that is part of that money, and that $570,000 is going to get reinvested at a much higher interest rate. So you're going to see not quite an exponential growth, but you're going to see even more interest generated by leveraging the cash in the bank into investments. Right now, as we sit, the Associated Bank is still generating just shy of 5.5% interest on cash. That's fantastic. And when we talked to you about the strategy, the question was how long would that sustain? The thought was maybe by July, that could start falling. It hasn't, but there's always a possibility that is going to just drop out from under us. And I think the treasurer is really working with their financial advisor to ensure that the Valley High investments are protected. And so if the cash does fall out, we're not getting those great interest rates in the short term, that money's going to be protected for the long term. But the combination of that direction and having those legacy investments at lower interest rates turning over to higher interest investments is really helping the sustainability, financial sustainability of Valley High. So, and that graph and that chart, I think, really helps paint that picture.
Thank you. Are we still on you? Or is that
But that's all I had on there. I have an item for future topics.
Okay, you wanna go ahead and do that? We're on future topics now.
The model. There's a lot of changes. Tom just mentioned several changes. I'm working to develop the back end of the model because everything that you talked about, that is going to be a very important tool for you to run those what-if scenarios, but there's so much more to develop. I was hoping to have something that I could present to you today, but it just is not. There's so many moving parts that need to be updated, but I'm looking forward to showing you all
We
that.
talked about doing it, but I think when we said before, we were talking about after the first of the year anyway, but if you want to do,
It would- Yeah,
just plan on whenever you wanna do it and let Teresa know so she can get,
Yeah.
You on the schedule. But,
so, you know, we are updating it, and a lot of information, something in the back end that needs to be developed based on a lot of these great changes, and I'm excited to present that, but I
So
appreciate the time.
we would be doing this with the new rates too, right?
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah, and I think Scott and I have at least a half a day with my business office team where we have to sit down, and a lot of those assumptions have to be adjusted.
okay, all right.
The spongy ma's got in the way, right?
Okay, we have no need for an executive session, so do I hear a motion to adjourn? Terry moved and Mike second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.